Okay, so talking about the start and finish of a movement, of an exercise, and zooming back, big picture, we want to start thinking, if we don't, of movement as skill. So for example, if I said you're doing a squat, if you thought a squat was a chore and you just want to get done with and you want your brain to be elsewhere, you're not necessarily going to learn how that squat should go or how to make that squat easy. An example, if you've never drawn before and I drew something and I said, okay, go ahead and draw it, you would probably need a little bit of instruction or help how to do that in a way that makes sense, that isn't too hard. Unfortunately, for some reason, with the body, people just assume people have the know-how, right? So if I said run, you could just run with no issue. But if you know how to watch people, you recognize some people should not be running at all. They should clean things up and learn how to use their body before they run. So this idea, taking a step back, is that movement as a skill. It is something you kind of want to learn. You want to know where you're at and how to get to where you want to be. An example would be playing tennis. If I just told you rules and said play tennis, you wouldn't have a lot of skill. You would have to learn and understand the skill. You would have to know what your shortcomings are and how to fix them. This is where a coach comes in, right? So the idea of today's lesson of finding the start and finish is, if you look at it in the way of Google Maps, right? In order to get to B, which most of us kind of have an idea of what that is, we have to know what A is. We have to know where we're at. And we need to be accurate about that. So if we know where A is, it's easier to find B. We could find the path in between. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Consider that Google Map thing in your mind as we go through this. Number one, movement is a skill that you should be learning. And number two, what are the start and finish points of a movement? What do they mean? So that's where we're going to head into right now. Okay, so when performing an exercise, I try to perform a full range of motion. And my response to this is 80% of you are like, yep, I agree. But what does full range of motion mean? Does one body have the same range of motion as the other? Does one arm have the same range of motion than the other? Right? If I'm doing a movement, a full range, let's say that I'm doing a pull-up, right? And the only part, right? So here's a pull-up. The only part I have an issue on is that first fourth. If this is the only part I have an issue on, I don't need to practice the whole thing. I only need to practice that. It's like you learning a music chord, right? You only want the specific piece. You don't want the whole song. You're just going to bang out the song. What is the piece that you need to look at? Okay, so range of motion, doing it full out all the way might not be the best necessary plan. You might want to look at partials. You might want to say, oh, wait a minute, I got a little bit more here. Maybe I need to expand my range of motion. So there's a lot of pieces. Again, there are no rules. You have to make your own rules by learning and understanding this thing. Okay, and the movement is what helps us learn and understand this thing. Okay, and then I asked, how do you know when to switch directions? When to stop going down and to squat and to come back up, right? Check the answers. Sorry, let me check this chat that's happening. I'm gonna find that chat. Oh, no problem. Right. Pattern, feel it. I don't know. Rules or the video. Again, whoever you're following has their own set of instructions and their own reasons for doing it. Maybe they were told and maybe they were told. right? When I get tired, right? Rules following, when you feel it in your thighs. When I find a good position, we're close, we understand that we need to feel it, but we don't necessarily have a straightforward definition. And the answer that everybody hates, but is the most true, is it depends. What are you looking for? What are you trying to do? That should match. It's kind of just like, I'll keep using the tennis example. I want to get better at tennis. I need to do more endurance. I don't recommend you going for jogs because you don't jog in tennis. So how do we use the movements and actions that I actually use in tennis to build my skill? Then it all matches. Okay. Now, big question. Should the top and bottom of an exercise, start or finish, be a place of work or rest? 69% say work. 31% say rest. My answer, again, it depends. Depends. If I'm learning a chord, I'm going to have to go slow, take a lot of breaks, check my fingers, what it sounds like. I'm going to have to take a lot of rest to checkpoint, check the Google map. Am I on the right course? If I understand the chord, then I could just play through. I could increase my work capacity. So if you know and understand, you're going to need rest. The other thing is that the more tired you are, the less aware you are of what you're doing. You just want to get finished. So what's the goal? Am I trying to just gut it out and increase my work capacity, or am I trying to learn and understand? Learning and understanding is going to need a bit more rest. Okay, I'll give you an example. So, squatting, right? If I'm standing straight up, this is a place of rest. I don't have to spend any energy really, just standing here. If I wanted to stay in my work range, I drop to here. And I wouldn't go back into that rest if I'm trying to increase my work capacity. I'm going to stay in this range. This is going to be my stop so I can keep cranking up the work with less squats. Less rest, more work. At the bottom, right? This, some of you will have an issue with this, right? Things will all adjust. But this is a place of rest. I can hang out here, I can read, do stuff, reach, wash the floor. So again, if I'm looking to build my work capacity, I wouldn't come this far down. I would go to about there. So my working rep would be between those two working points. But if I struggle getting here, I would need to take some time to figure out how to get here. Athletes, right? Athletes who squat. When I'm an athlete, I'm pretty much going to use this range all day long. And so what they do is they load up the weight and they do squats in this range. It makes sense, but you don't want to get really good at this range and lose down here. You want to build on, you don't want to sacrifice. So again, unfortunately, it depends. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to learn and figure out? Are you trying to increase work capacity? Doing stuff at the bottom and top of a movement. 87% of you agree. You shouldn't be so stressed and maxed out at either point that you can't breathe and you're just stuck there. You want to be able, like the squat, you want to be able to do stuff there. Okay. Which position should be the easiest? Top or bottom? Both? If you're trying to stress the system out, 32%. Top, bottom. Again, it depends. I'm curious if I had an it depends bubble there, how many would have filled it in? But do you see how we kind of have these ranges. That's a pretty even split of what people think. Ideally, we want it all to be easy. Again, think of A to B. A is my starting point, B is my finish. But if we're exercising and trying to do movement, we don't just go there and stop. We oscillate back and forth. So the A and B is actually a turnaround point, not necessarily a finish point. So if you want to increase work capacity, you want to make the movement as easy as possible. And oftentimes we have to learn how to make a movement easy as possible. Okay, we want it. It's so anti everything that is exercise and fitness. We think it's suffering and sweating, right? And like the more we can make something easy, automatically the more that we can do. And the more interesting it gets, right? Nobody wants to do a chore. Nobody wants to go hard all the time. This is why pro athletes, right? They have lots of downtime to compensate for that high output, high performance. All right, so I'm gonna need some feedback with this one, as I'm not sure if it has made sense in my clarification or you're still completely lost. But what I'm saying here is if I get familiar with the top and bottom of a movement, A and B, or the endpoints, the in-between, or getting from A to B, becomes easier. If I give you that Google Map analogy again, right? First time you go from place A to place B, might have to do a lot of checks, you're not sure. But if I go from A to B a lot, I got that route memorized. Right? I don't gotta do everything becomes automatic and I find shortcuts and easier routes. So my question, and please be honest, and please use the chat, if not your mic, is there still the most people saying, what is this lady talking about? Or do we think we get it? Please respond in some way. Is there a chat going? Am I missing it? Are we thinking?
It's in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Let me check real quick then. Get it, get it, get it. Kind of appreciate that. I'm sorry if you could see this. I don't even know how else to, maybe if I box it out, okay, and come back, then it won't show your names. Okay, so thank you for that honesty. There's probably many more who are not responding like, oh, maybe. Let me give you an example with the push-up. What? All right, so go from knees just to kind of get the legs out and make it easier. So ideally, the top part of that push-up, some might think that this is it where my hips sag, right? Which makes doing this so much harder. So if I recognize that the top part of my push-up is actually a hip lift, and I can get to my legs, now I understand, oh, okay, this is where I need to go. The bottom, similarly, I have elbows tucked in, I have things in a line. I know where the bottom is. If I show you camera facing what most students think the bottom looks like, if you're watching them, my hands are wide, out here, and the head drops. So they think they're like only doing it with their upper body. So this, B to this. Give you a quick roadmap. Push-ups, elbow pockets. Most of the time, people think that they should face each other, which lends to this head drop, elbows wide. But if my elbow pockets are able to rotate, hands are able to find the pocket, and now, much stronger position. but I needed to recognize that the B of a push-up isn't here. It's here. Does that clarify? Let me see if the chat will work. There it is. Oh. Got it. Okay, perfect. I don't know why it won't stay. Awesome. Lots and lots of yeses. Appreciate it. Good, good, good. Thank you for that feedback. So last picture then. Last question. To get better at a movement, instead of thinking, I need to be moving, I need to be moving, I need to be moving, maybe I just need to kind of get familiar with where it starts and finishes, where I think it does. So maybe I need to kind of, I don't want to say freeze, because freeze implies like super tense. Maybe I need to hang out in a spot and find that it's easy. Where is the easy part of this top? How do I make this bottom position easy? Which leads into our next assignment, which is hanging out in a position. Again, do you want to, right, make it as hard as possible, or do you want to let go and relax as much as possible so you can naturally endure? That's the next test. Stop share, stop recording.